I'm Barrie Zucal. I've just delivered a talk on global leadership coaching to the master's students at Stellenbosch University. We focused on cultural competence and working with high levels of diversity in organizations. This is the most cutting edge thing I could bring you in terms of global leadership. So this is about the leaders, like who are the leaders that you're going to be coaching if you are coaching global leaders, right? And what are they going to need to succeed? I think it's a great assessment. These are the things, if you're coaching global leaders, this is a big distinction. In general, those of you who are coaching, you will know that a purist approach to coaching is that you are there to evoke what the person you're coaching already knows or can already think of themselves, right? You are asking questions, you are listening out loud so they can hear. You're doing all these things to help them to really evoke what is in them, to find their own answers. When you coach global leaders, you're doing all those things also. However, things go fast in the global world of business, right? They don't want to sit around for 3 sessions figuring out, themselves what intercultural empathy means, right? They want to know what you know it means. And they want to know why that matters to them and how that's going to make a difference. And you have to know something about why this is important when you're working globally, so that you have the information about the competencies they need to succeed when you're actually coaching them. This is the area of intellectual capital broken down for you. This is the easiest to change. You can teach people to upgrade their intellectual capital. Social capital is a little harder to change, right? And this will not surprise you probably. Women are much higher in diplomacy than men. Men are but they have a higher impact often than women do. This is the hardest to change. Possible? And surely with coaching, I bet that you can change this. The women are higher in passion for diversity. I think the men are higher in quest for adventure. And I think the men are higher in self-assurance. So this is the International Coach Federation, excuse my initials here. This is what they say coaching is. So this is good because it gives you some idea of what the coach does as well as what the coaching process is. So this is what coaches do. This is kind of basic, bottom line. What do coaches do? All right? So if you were taking the very first course in coaching, you would be learning these kinds of things. They listen silently and out loud. So they listen, they help people to hear themselves, and when people do hear themselves, they often are surprised to hear what they're really saying and thinking. So it's quite helpful. Listening is, I've been studying listening for at least 25 years now. So I think it is a highly developed skill. You can start out very basic, but if you're good, sometimes the person you're listening to will say, well, that's not quite what I meant, right? And if you're not good, they'll never tell you. They'll just not talk to you anymore, right? Okay, so this is the distinction. Anyway, so they ask questions that help the coachee to hear themselves and expand their perspectives, because we all think, this much is possible. But when you get a coach, you find out this much is possible. Coaches help clients to set stretch goals. So it's not about imposing goals on you. It really is about helping you to hold yourself accountable for what it is you want to achieve. And then, of course, you take time to celebrate successes with your coach. But Global Coaches Network is my company. And so what you're hearing tonight is all from my company, right? There's only one other guy I know of who's even talking about global leadership coaching and developing his own methods and ways of doing things. So it isn't, there just aren't that many people talking about this. Okay, this is the coaching model we use. And you'll notice that that golden spot in the center, it's the sweet spot. It's the place where you can coach the leader. And if, for instance, if the leader brings in a situation, like, for example, I can remember a guy that I coached for a while. He was from a military background. He joined an organization. They sent him immediately, outside of the U.S., and he was managing, quite a large staff. He was getting a lot of pushback from the staff, and he couldn't imagine because he was used to being in control. I mean, he was a leader in the military, U.S. military. So anyway, but he told me that story, and then we talked about the people that he gave him pushback were people who had been there a lot longer than he had, and who knew how to get things done in ways in that culture much better than he did when he first got there. And that's why he was getting that pushback. But that gave us a chance, too, to talk about this area of cultural competence. What really works in that culture? What kind of leaders do they respect? What do they want from their leaders? What do these people want from their leaders? Had he ever even talked to them? Had he talked to them one-on-one? Lots of things that he needed to learn about that culture before he made assumptions, because he was making a lot of assumptions about those people that were, and kind of blaming. And that happens all too often when you're working across cultures. So it's very important that you know something about cultural competence, and you can help leaders to learn more about their own cultural preferences and about the cultural preferences of the people they're working with, right? And then that feeds into the global leadership issues, and also it comes back to personal competence. Like, how do you feel when you're used to, if you were that leader who is used to that command and control style, right? And all of a sudden, it doesn't work for you anymore. What else have you got if you don't know another way, right? So you're kind of stuck, and usually that brings people a lot of anxiety, when they feel. So then we're talking about how to deal with your anxiety in an uncomfortable situation. We're talking about social and emotional intelligence, kind of basic stuff. So over here in the, what am I saying, basic? It's not that basic. If it were, things would be moving a lot more smoothly around the world. But, we're getting into areas like that. And then this is, you'll see, the global organizational success. So we're always working with leaders in the context of their organizational success. So what does the word listen mean to you? How do you define it? When you listen, what do you listen for? So you notice nonverbal behavior. So now what else do you listen for? Congruence. And so somebody will be saying something, but you just have a sense it doesn't really fit with how they feel or who they are. And your example of saying what you think, somebody saying what they think you want to hear, it's a good example. Yeah, okay. But it's when there's that inconsistency, you experience that inconsistency. What else do you listen for?
What is not being said?
What's not being said, of course. And that's difficult, isn't it? If it's not being said, how do you listen for that? So I want to offer you a couple of ideas here. I listen for energy. Don't you? Really? Now that I mentioned this, coaches, don't you know this? That you watch energy? Yes, everyone's shaking their head now that I said this, yes. Okay, so you notice someone's energy level. I just started working with a gal who works at GE, a leader at GE, and she was talking like this, and she was saying, yeah, it's really a good company, and I'm really, I'm a high potential there, and it's all, this and that, and I was like, wow. Talk about the disconnect, right, between her energy level and what she was saying. I listen for power, whether they feel powerful or not, whether they feel they have control of themselves, whether they feel that they have control of their situation. Okay, I listen for themes in their relationships. So, sometimes you find patterns just by listening and hearing what, the stories they're telling you over time, or just asking, is this a pattern in your relationship? And you can also listen to yourself, and you can say, when I'm with this person, I feel uneasy, right? And well, it's actually, if you're good at interpreting your own feeling, then it's a reality. So these are just some levels of listening. Anyway, this sacred listening, which even in business situations can happen, right? Depending on the quality of the relationship. Okay, this is a coaching question. What gets in the way of being a good listener every single day, right? What gets in the way? And these are just a few of the things I thought of. What is culture? Culture is the way we do things around here, right? So these are good people if you want to learn more about this culture in the workplace. So the cultural dimensions are, well, it's a framework for understanding culture. So here are some cultural dimensions. Are there differences between groups in South Africa and how they view time? Yes, right? Is that a yes? Okay, good. All right, good. Okay. So just so you know, the U.S. has a fixed time schedule. So they like things to start on time. We are also single-focused. We like to do one thing at a time, where many cultures are multi-focused, like the Mexicans, for example. They'll be talking to you, answering the phone, cleaning their desk. I mean, they could have 13 things, talking to their secretary. I mean, there could be 13 things going on, and they're quite comfortable. But a U.S. American with them would be like pretty uncomfortable. So this is a continuum with some people very focused on task, right? And then other people at the other end, much more focused on relationships. So then we have communication, direct and indirect. So then we have status and equity, equality and hierarchy. Again, Japan, very hierarchical culture. And then this thinking, I want to be clear, there's nothing wrong with simple thinking, right? It isn't an insult if you are a simple thinker. But it is different than if you like complexity. I want you to, each of you, share with the other where you think you are on the continuum. You might draw it on a piece of paper or something, but share where you are. Put your points on the continuum. I want you to just think, if you were working together, what might the issues be on the continuums where you are there's more space between you. I'm going to ask you if, in fact, when you did this debrief, you felt that you learned something about your partner's thinking of at least one dimension, and what you learned about the work issues that might be related to this. If you discussed the work issues, what did you learn about how, what the work issues might be if you had a difference on the continuum, if you were separated on the continuum? So I think there are more conversations happening. And again, I'm a little limited. I talk to my coaches. Fortunately, I have a lot of coaches all over the world that help me to understand what's going on in other places. And all of us are a little limited by our own perspective and our own experience. But I think there's more attention to it now. But it's still the hardest thing because differences divide people unless they can work through them. And anybody who's married knows this, right? Everybody knows this. So this is a kind of a bottom line. Okay, so I want to close with something. I want to thank you for being just a fabulous audience. I mean, just a fabulous audience. One of the things we coaches have to know, and many leaders need to know also, is that when we are developing someone, mentoring, coaching, is that we are not the experts. We are not the experts. We are the experts in the process, perhaps, right? But we are not the expert of who that person is or what they need to be doing or what decision they should make next. We're not the experts, not even if you're a leader. If you're a mentor, you can give more advice than most coaches do, but really we're not. And it's really important, especially those of us who are in expert roles in organizations, to be able to take a step back sometime and approach a person or a situation with more of a beginner's mind and maintain the curiosity, ask the questions with a gentleness that allows people to answer you, right? No matter what culture they come from, we'll get better responses that way. Thank you so much. I really hope to hear from you. Please take a card. Oh, thank you.